Hello, friends. I am Chevee. Welcome to my shed. How are you today? How's life in your world? How's things where you are? I hope it's fantastic. Everything here is perfectly wonderful. Over the last couple of days, Friday and yesterday, we've talked about two fantasy series that had a pretty big impact on me: The Lord of the Rings and Harry Potter. But I skipped over one. I skipped over one that had a very large impact on me in my teenage years. But I skipped over it because I've never finished it, and that is Robert Jordan's The Wheel of Time. Like the Lord of the Rings book, you can probably tell by looking at this one that this book traveled with me a lot, and I read this book a lot. I think I've probably read The Eye of the World 6 times-ish over the years. And it always fascinates me, it always captivates me, and it always gets me so interested in the world that Robert Jordan created that I want to continue reading. And I have. The thing is, I don't think I've ever made it past book 7 or 8. I don't remember exactly where I ended in the storyline, because if you've read The Wheel of Time, you know that the storyline is very widely branching and interwoven, and it in scenes, chronological order of the scenes are not quite clear in my head. You know, going to the Ivory Tower is also mixed in with going to the desert people. I don't remember what they're called. I don't remember. I know that what sequence it happens, but in my brain, it's all just one thing. Like, it all just happened, right? So it's very hard to keep track of. And I think that's why I never was able to finish The Wheel of Time. There's, I believe, 14 books in this series, and the last few were written posthumously by Brandon Sanderson, which is one of the reasons why I was interested in reading Brandon Sanderson before deciding to reread The Wheel of Time, which is something I'm definitely going to do this year. I'm going to reread all of The Wheel of Time. And I'm excited about it. I'm excited because I know what... Not because I know the ending. I've stayed away from the spoilers, but I know who wrote the ending, and I know that it'll be okay. I think part of the reason that I didn't finish reading was because Robert Jordan died, and because I knew there wasn't going to be a satisfactory ending, and so I just kind of stopped, because around book 7 or 8 is that weird middle section where just stuff just keeps going and going and going with no real... It doesn't seem to be going anywhere in particular. It's just going places. And so you have to power through that. But going back in time, I got this book when I was a teen. I don't know exactly when. It says... this says copyright 1990, but I don't think this was from 1990. I would have been 11, and I definitely wasn't reading it that early in life. So I don't know what the printing is on this, but yeah, that's weird. Why doesn't it have, like, I really wish books told you when they were printed. It's kind of strange, I guess. But anyway, I would say I got this when I was 13, 14, 15, somewhere in that time frame. And I wanted it so desperately that it's a misprint. I don't know if you can see it, but the foil printing is half down here, half up here. It's not printed correctly, and I didn't care. It was the only copy they had in the bookstore, and this was like, you know, this was pre-internet. Like, there was nobody telling me to buy this book. There was no... I didn't have a large group of internet friends to recommend me books, and there wasn't a great way to filter through... a must-read list. And I bought this book on faith because a couple of people had mentioned it, and I read the back, and I was immediately drawn into the idea of, the Dragon Reborn, the Chosen One. And having, read The Lord of the Rings a bunch, the Lord of the Rings was kind of a Chosen One story, but not really. Right? It's more about becoming something that you're not. It's that same hero's journey. It's the same, but this is the chosen one version of that. This is the Star Wars version of that, set in a fantasy setting, and it was immediately captivating. The The characters in this series were wildly different than anything I had read before. I loved that the creatures felt familiar, but they had weird names like Trollocs. I loved that the magic felt familiar, but also completely foreign with the taint on the male half of the source. There's a whole lot packed into this that really made me love the world, kind of even more than I loved Rand's story. Like, as a reader, you're pretty sure at the end of book one that Rand is the chosen one. You're pretty sure of that. Like, it seems to be obvious. But it takes another, like, 5 books, or I don't think that's true, 3 to 4 books before, yeah, he starts to believe it, right? But the world around all of that is so much more vastly interesting than any other writer's books I've attempted to read. Robert Jordan crafted a world that felt like it had culture and it had purpose, and every sub I guess race, every ethnicity of person had its own culture, had its own way of life that was familiar but yet vastly different. I think that in a lot of fantasy, when a new I don't know, it's not a race, when a new ethnicity is introduced, you can immediately go, oh, that's Chinese influenced, or that's European influenced, or that's Mesoamerican influenced, and it's obvious. In this, there's some of that, but it's also Robert was able to take the people of a desert, for instance. What are the people of the desert like? What is their housing like? What is their clothing like? What are their mannerisms like? And let's twist that so that it's not obvious that I'm making these people Egyptians, or these people, I just forgot the word I was looking for. I'm so good at this, right? Persian, right? He made them their own thing, their own desert people, and the whole world feels that way. And it felt just so refreshing and renewing. And I think that a lot of authors struggle with when they spend that much effort invested into their world, they forget to invest effort into their characters. And I think that's where Robert Jordan really came through. His characters have life. They're all meaningful. The problem is there's like 70 of them. I don't know if that's actually accurate, but there are dozens of characters that you need to keep track of. And there are dozens of, I don't know, hundreds of interwoven storylines, possibly. I'm pretty sure by the end of book 14 it's like that. There is so much to keep track of that it can be extremely daunting. And I think that's why I got bogged down around book 7 or 8. But this time I think I'll make it through. I really, really do. This book meant a whole lot to me because I read The Lord of the Rings when I was young. And it opened my eyes to fantasy, to play. What I mean, I don't mean fantasy the genre, I mean fantasy, the idea of the fantastical being a space that I could play in. Prior to it, I had like the D&D cartoon, maybe the Gummy Bears cartoon that introduced some fantastical elements to me, but I didn't, when I went and played, I played G.I. Joe or I played Ghostbusters. I didn't play in the world of mysticism and medieval culture. That didn't come until The Lord of the Rings. And this was the first book that took the hero's journey that I've always loved from the Star Wars and Indiana Jones, kind of the chosen one, and it intertwined that with fantasy. And it came to me at a time in my life where I wasn't sure who I was as a person, and I was about to go on my own hero's journey. It was a very dark and twisted hero's journey, and I tried a lot of bad things, but I went on that journey, and I came out at the other side a complete person. And I don't want to say it's because of this book. I don't want to say that pretending to be in Rand's world helped me understand my place in this world, but it was damn sure impactful on that story. it impacted my growth a great deal, even though I never finished it. I didn't need to. I got what I needed out of it. I needed to see that it was okay to, that even from the simplest of roots can grow a magnificent garden. And I needed to become that well-rounded garden, not trying to force myself into, being what I'm expected to be, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So it hit me at a very critical time in my life. And it became a very important part of my life. And I think that's why I've read this particular book over and over again. I made it to book 8 one time, I made it to book 5 one time, I made it to book 3 one time. Like, I've made it at various lengths throughout the series. But I think this year we're going to power through it. And if you want, let me know in the comments whether you would like a book-by-book review. I will attempt to review it as if I had just read it for the first time and I don't have any prior knowledge. Let me know about that in the comments below. Also, if you have any impactful stories about your time in the Wheel of Time, let me know in the comments. Thank you for being here as always. Thank you for liking, commenting, subscribing, being amazing friends and wonderful people. I really appreciate you. And I'll see you again tomorrow. Today's word you should know to sound smart is farcical. It is an adjective meaning ludicrous, absurd, or laughably inept. To conjure up such ridiculous questions, the answers to which we all know or should know are in the negative, is to build up a whimsical and farcical straw man which is not only grim, but grim. Tom C. Clark, a Supreme Court Justice. Farcical. Farcical. That's a powerful quote. It must be from some classic court case. I don't know what though.